Okay, as long as we're enjoying ourselves this evening at the expense of Jacob. When he says, and I suppose you're pure as the driven snow. He says, are you as pure as the driven snow? Well, actually, let's look at it, okay? I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I don't go to parties. I live alone. I lived alone for basically 40 years. I'm a celibate. I'd say I'm pretty much more pure than the driven snow than you are, my friend. So, I pretty much lived the life of a nun, okay, because all my focus was on my spiritual path for the 45 years, okay? So, maybe, yeah, you could say, yeah, just call me the Snow Queen, okay? Oh my goodness. Sometimes you have to laugh, with these people. I guess they all think that everybody's as jaded as they are, okay? So, yeah, am I as pure as the driven snow? Pretty close. Oh, Lord have mercy. I guarantee I'm a whole lot more pure than he is, okay? And I'm a lot more pure than Kavanaugh. I'm not sitting here throwing back the brewskis, okay? So let's be real, okay? And again, people that think that you can't have a good life if you're basically living the life of a nun, you're a renunciate, you're a celibate, you're a hermit, your path is solely on your focus of your spiritual path. Think again. I lead a very full life. Okay? And I don't need to depend on somebody else to do it. Okay? So, yeah, people get this really wrong ideation about what it is to lead the life of a mystic, what it entails, and, these false ideations that crop up about it. As far as the thing with the celibacy and all of that stuff, these things fall away. It's not of interest. You're not out there looking for some, you're not driven by sex. You're not driven by any of these passions. And you don't need a man to tell you, to affirm you. I think this is one of the problems with so many women. They have such low self-esteem that they think they need to have some guy to affirm them before they will believe it. And then they get used and abused by these guys because they don't have the internal wherewithal to understand who and what they are at the core of being. So they develop these codependent relationships, which can never make somebody happy. If you can't find the happiness within yourself and you become your own best friend first, then you're not going to find it outwards. You're not going to have that to share with somebody. You're always going to come from a place of lack. Okay? And you don't need to come from a place of lack. But it takes, to get out of that drama, to get out of that maelstrom, it does take walking the path and really sitting with things and really questioning things to the core of being so that these things are no longer driving. Everybody's got something underneath that they're either trying to dispel or they're trying to, like Trump. He's so failed in so many areas that he has to sit there and lie and has to con and has to make up stories. Okay? If you know who you are, who and what you are, you don't need to play these games. You don't need to. You know, you are who and what you are. You are who and what you say you are, you know. If you live your life from truth, there's nothing to come back. If you live your life in a transparent way, that there's nothing for somebody to come back on you. You have a very clear mind, okay? So that's, you know, people need to understand what it is to, again, lead the life of a mystic or the life of basically starting out. I started out in a Christian esoteric order where, you know, I was in prayer, you know, every day. I was in prayer. I was seeking. I wanted to know God's face. I wanted to know God above everything. I wanted to know that creator of existence. I wanted to know the truth from the fallacy. What is God? Is there God? What is God? What is, you know? I had those questions. And when I was really young, I was really stupid because I prayed sincerely, let me walk the path of Christ. Oh, I didn't know what I was asking, you know. You ask to walk that path, and you're going to get it in spades. And it's not easy. You go through the temptations, you know, the things that Christ went through. You will go through the temptations. You go through the feeling of the weight of humanity. I mean, it's not an easy thing. You feel like you've been scourged. You feel like you've been crucified. You just, you know, I mean, it's not easy. You go through all those things, and it's not, you know, it's not something that takes place in 6 months. These are years and years and years of things that one goes through to walk a path. It takes years. Now, don't think I was always this happy. Don't think I was this happy, that I was inside calm, quiet like it is now. Okay? Don't think that was there. I came from a very abusive background. Very abusive. A lot of trauma, a lot of abuse, a lot of things were in my background. And I went through severe depression to the point where I couldn't move. I literally could not move. I went to the mental health department and they said, forget it, your case is so difficult, we don't even know where to begin. I went through a lot, okay? We'll just put it that way. So there was a lot of stuff to go through. That's why I continue to say, you know, please do your spiritual path. Because you can come out of this stuff fully, but you have to confront it fully. You have to look at it full in the face. You can't keep running away. You can't keep manufacturing masks. You can't keep doing all that stuff. Okay? Because it just keeps you on that wheel of pain and angst and all of that. There is a way to come out of it. Okay? There is a way to come out of it. Okay, but it takes a lot of years. Like I said, my path was 45 years, very intense, 24/7. There was no let up to it. And it took until the moment of realization before everything, you know, became good. Just, it ends. I mean, it ends like it never was, like it never existed. All that baggage. That's why it says blown out. You've been blown out, because it's like, again, like you've been reborn. Like there's, you know, a fresh spirit, a fresh, you know, that other thing, that other person. Who was that? Okay? That never existed. That was just, you know, it was a horror show. Okay? Really, it was a horror show. It was, you know, but you find out I've never been that, okay? And so there's a whole freshness that comes, and all the thought, all the drama is at an end. It finished. And the mind from that point is still, it's quiet. You enter what the Bible calls that peace that passes understanding, you know. Now, I could be screaming on the outside, but inside there will be a calm, a still center, a very calm place, always, okay, always. So I can't stress enough how beneficial it is to do the path, although it feels like you are crawling on your knees through glass, through the thorn forest. And you know, it takes all your strength to take the next breath, to take the next step. And you have to go through it to get to the other side. So I never tell people that a spiritual path is going to be easy. It's not easy. It's going to be the most difficult thing you've ever faced in your life. Okay? And you have to face yourself. You have to face all your fears. And trust me, these things will come at you like demons. If you ever watched the story about the Buddha, okay, and you see the scene where he's sitting there and he's in meditation, and these fires are coming and the demons are coming and all this stuff is coming at him. That's what it's like. And it can be like that 24/7 for a long time. Okay? This can be for a long time that you are navigating through that stuff and finding that rather than fighting it, rather than playing to it, you have to be still and just observe it and see it dissipate, see it dissipate, see it dissipate. Okay? So again, it takes a long time. It's not something you can read about and I can get, I'll just get an attitude adjustment. I'll just adopt this speech and it'll all be good. No, you have to actually go through the living experience of it. Okay? And that's what takes place when you have a Kundalini awakening. This energy wakes up and it goes through all the subconscious. And it brings up first the fight or flight, you know, just basic survival. You know, it goes through the sexual stuff, the basic survival, then it goes through powers, it goes through speech, it goes through the sight, it goes through, you know, it goes through 7 different layers and levels of consciousness that one has to progress through. And it's a very long journey. Okay, very, very long journey. So again, you know, if you're not ready to go through the mystic's path, and you read like people like the saints, and you read what they went through and the visions they had and all this stuff, well, that happens. It happens. The visions happen, powers happen, all this stuff comes and goes, okay. It's something one transitions through it, not something that you cling to and you hold to. Because it becomes a stumbling block if you do that. You have to pass through it, not cling to it, okay? But again, you know, this is a path. More and more people are awakening to that. They're starting to awaken. And there will be more and more women coming to the forefront as realized masters and beings because they have been so repressed by the male energy. Okay, I hate to tell you this, guys. Close your ears. But it's time. It needs to right the scales. It needs to come to balance, okay? It needs to come to balance. It's kind of like White Tara. That, you know, that the story where she was out in the field and was doing her things, and the guys came and said, well, maybe next life you'll be fortunate enough to be born a male so you can get to realization. And she tells him, I'm already realized and I vowed to be only reborn as a woman. Okay? To right this. To right this. Okay? Now, don't think again that it's always easy. Now, I have remembrances of past lives. In fact, things sometimes if you need to know it, it's just going to appear. It's not something you go by and you look for. Oh, I want to look at my past lives. No, if there's something you need to know, it's going to manifest. It's going to come to the forefront. Okay. And in past life, I was Buddhist. I was doing this ceremony, the Chode ceremony. I knew nothing about it in this life. All of a sudden, I'm in this dream state where I'm seeing this happen, and it's like it's happening in this moment. And they came to me and told me about the practice, Chode practice. And they said, you know, you invite the demons to feed on your flesh. It's a compassionate thing, etc., etc. Oh, great. That's, you know, oh, great. Yeah, let's do it, you know. Let's do it. And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, this is very symbolic. It's great. Let's, you know, and it became feeling very real. You could feel them tearing, really tearing your flesh. And I went crazy in that life. Literally, I went crazy, okay? I couldn't go through it. It wasn't, you know, I went absolutely out of my mind, insane, because I wasn't ready for that experience. I wasn't, you know, grounded enough. I didn't understand that this is not just symbology. You actually feel it to the nth degree. It becomes real. It becomes feeling like it's actually genuinely real. Okay, so again, people have to understand there are difficult times that one has to pass through. That's why you need to have a good teacher. You need to have somebody that can give you instruction and guidance going through it to get to the other side, because it's not always easy. Okay, people think it's going to be the yellow brick road and things are going to be so much easier. I'm going to be boom bliss. I'm going to be in control. Oh no, That happens in the honeymoon stage before you get to the difficult part of the journey where you really have to start confronting things and all the fears and all this stuff come flying in your face to be seen and navigated through. Okay. And for those that want to be teachers, you think you want to be a teacher of a spiritual path, you have to go through even more. Okay? And then you are called to a higher level of karmic things as well, because whatever you're giving out to people, if you're giving the wrong thing, you're responsible for that. Okay? It's not a joke. You know, these ones like Nityananda, these fake gurus that are out there and giving this stuff, and causing all this hardship to people, oh, I wouldn't want to be him when he leaves the form. Because he will be in hell realm for many eons because of what he's doing to people, what he has done. This is not a joke. It's not a joke. And he wants to laugh and say, there's no karma. He really thinks he's stand up there and say he's a god and this and that nonsense. Oh, he's got hell to pay. Literally hell to pay for many eons for what he's doing to people. So again, you know, think long and hard if you're ready for it. But if you're ready for it, like the Bible says, you get started with the plow, you don't turn back. Don't turn back. You have to keep going forward. You have to keep surrendering. You have to keep, you know, because you don't get it, you know, these people that get this big, you know, ego trip, you get it by grace. Not by doership. You get it by grace. Okay? So if you think you're going to get in and get the big ego, I'm going to get realized, I'm going to be the big person, hey, it deflates all that immediately when you get to realization. You find out you're nothing special. Everybody, I don't care if it's the most ignorant person on the planet, I don't care if it's a snail, it's got the same amount of God essence as you do. Okay? Snail. You. Okay, come on, go. Slug. You. Same amount of essence, okay? And God is everywhere. God is everywhere. everything. So at one point you can say God is all, or you could say God doesn't exist. For God to exist, there must be something other, and there is nothing other than that. That's a mind bender. Okay? All those things flash through immediately. You get all these cognitions and all these knowings and everything. Wisdom comes immediately. It's like boom, 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 boom. Yeah, for God to exist, there has to be something other than that, and there is nothing other than that. Everything you see, everything you touch, everything you taste, everything you hear, everything you smell is all from that God essence. Okay? So again, there's so much, but these things can only be known directly. You could read about it, and that's why people, when they ask me to, I have one person that was a student, quote unquote student, that never listen. They sit on the sidelines. They don't do what they're supposed to do. They get their nose out of joint about something. They leave and then say how enlightened they are. And they haven't even begun the path in earnest, okay? And this is, again, not something one reads about and adopts. It is a visceral experience, and there is a massive, massive shift in consciousness. You are no longer the same being. Oh, the form looks the same. Nothing changes with the form. But the mind, the consciousness, has gone through a totally radical shift. Okay? You are totally a different being than you were. You bear no resemblance to what that was before. That's why so many times when realization is entered, you take a different name, because you're no longer that being. You're no longer that. It makes no sense any longer. Okay? You're no longer that. Okay? It's another mind spin, when you get to that point and you go, I've never existed. The only thing that exists is this great is. Now again, whether you want to call it Allah, you want to call it God, you want to call it Jehovah, you want to call it the great is, you want to call it Great Spirit, Wankantanka, doesn't matter what you want to name it, it's all the same. There's only, the big zero that gives value to everything. But again, it's not something one sees with the eyes. Okay? You only see the divisionary realm with the eyes. But it's more real, more palpable than anything you can touch in this divisionary universe. Much more stark, much more real. Okay? And then when you come back out of it, you see this is like a dream state. That's why Buddha said, I am awakened, because you understand all of this is created and held in place by mind, by consciousness. That's why consciousness is so important. You change the mind, you change the identification, you change those things, okay? And it changes your experience. It changes the whole realm of your experience. Okay, so important. So important. Okay. And again, we've lived many, 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 many lives. We've been many beings on many planets, on many experiences. Okay. And sometimes we'll do something that will trigger an ancient knowing, an ancient happening into our consciousness. Okay? So anyway, I don't know why all this came forward tonight, but apparently Spirit wanted it to come forward tonight. Sometimes I'm always amazed at what comes forward. It's like, oh, okay. I'm just along for the ride, that's all. That's the way that works at the end. When you complete and you go forward, you're along for the ride, And you watch and you observe, and things come out of the mouth, and you see this form is speaking. But there's no thought here that's thinking, what do I say next? Everything comes spontaneously. Okay, it's a different thing, a different realm, a different happening. Things just come spontaneously as needed in the moment. Okay? So only way I can explain it. So I think that's about it. I'm not feeling that anything else is coming. That's the end of that. When it closes down, and then you're just like blank. Okay. And that's all, folks. So all you can do is laugh, at the absurdity of it all, the craziness. And again, you watch people and you see them go in these spins and these cycles of craziness, and they're their own worst enemies by the things they attach to, and they let it make them ill. They just, run around in these cycles, and it's not beneficial. It's not beneficial. Okay? The only beneficial thing about it is if it starts them to a point of coming, when you come to the point of absolute desperation, when you're praying for death, when you get to that low of a point, then you want to do anything you can to get out of this. Okay? So that's okay. That's what's coming now. Yeah. Like I said, I went through a lot of abuse, a lot of stuff, and was severe depression, to the point where you just want to be out of this world. And you pray to be out of this world. You really just, I want death. I want to get through it. I want, I can't deal with anymore. Well, you get death, just not the way you thought it was going to be. And it was a long time to get to it, too. It was a slow, lingering process to get to that death before death. Only took 45 years to die, okay? But at that point, you're ready for it. People that are living a nominal life, and they're happy with existence, they just want to have a little more control. They're not ready for the path, because they're not ready to face that death. If that comes at them in their face, they will run from it like crazy. Okay? And I can tell you, it's the most fearful thing you'll ever face. And I've said this a number of times. It's like being, the only way I can describe it, it's like being in the Grand Canyon. And that huge drop is there, and it's pitch black. You cannot see a thing, and you are compelled to go forward. Okay? And you don't know, because you haven't seen, you've had experiences of seeing like Krishna or whatever, in every plant, every being, everything. But again, even though you feel connected to it, it's still something separate. But you see it within you, and you see it within others. But it's still, even that oneness is more of a, like one, it's still a divisionary experience. Okay? So when you get to this point of this death before death, it's like you don't know if you're going to die. You feel like you're going to die. You don't know if you're going to be possessed, because this is in some different realm. You have no idea. You are terrified, okay? That's the only thing I say, terrifying. And you've done everything you can do. And there's nothing more that you can do. And in that point, when it got to that point here, literally I said, and this was a literal thing that was said in the mind, was, on the altar of truth I lay myself. Okay? And I don't know, God, whether you're going to pull me through if I'm going to die, if I'm going to be possessed, I don't know what's going to happen, but on the altar of truth, I lay myself and you totally surrender and have to let go. And in that moment, within a heartbeat, within a second and a heartbeat, your whole world has just deconstructed. And you're not there any longer. Okay? All of a sudden, you're in this pristine awareness. And you're not seeing something with your eyes because it's not something that's seen. But there's this awareness of the ultimate reality of the Great Spirit of God. And, again, it says in the Bible that when God passes, you hide, because if you see his face, you don't live. That's true. If you see the face of God, your ego, the existence is done, okay? That identification is a me story, gone, okay? It's true. It's so very true. Okay. But it happens in a second. It's a split second. And again, the only thing you're aware of is this great is. You're enmeshed in it, absorbed in it. That's the only thing that exists. This world has you don't see this world. It's gone. It never existed. It's a fantasy. It's a dream state. It's an illusion. Okay? And one enters that stillness, that pristine awareness, that pure consciousness, that state of pure awareness. And you don't know how long you've been there. Could be for days, it could be seconds. There's no identification with time. And at that point, nobody's around. They're not seeing. So, didn't look at a clock on a wall first. No idea. Okay? And then you come out of it, and your eyes are registering a world. Okay? The eyes are seeing these moving objects, is seeing the world. But the consciousness is no longer in this state of division. Okay? And one's no longer befooled by appearances. One knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that all of these seemingly separate objects are not separate. They're not. Okay? So again, and then one enters into the next thing. Well, here, the immediate thing was, oh my God, now what? If you've spent lifetimes in the search, and all of a sudden the search is over, okay? Like my guru asked me, are you convinced of this? I said, no, I'm not convinced of anything, because to be convinced of something, there has to be some doubt. In this, there's no doubt. There is no room for any doubt anywhere. It simply is, Okay? It's the end of the journey. And if you've spent lifetimes looking, all of a sudden it's like you hit a brick wall. Well, now what do I do with my life? Now what happens? There's nothing to look for anymore. There's no search, okay? My whole lifetimes have been for this search, Now it's done. Now what? Kind of useless now. But thank God, at that point, my guru, the teacher that I had that was very instrumental, I was ripe and ready when I met them, and they were instrumental to get the last jolt that was needed to make things break through and fall away, to go in on myself rather than seeking outward. I'm forever grateful for that. He said, well, what you're saying, and I talked to him about what this is, what it is, He said, what you're saying is the Ashtavakra Gita. It's the Vivek Chudamani. What's the Ashtavakra? What's the Vivek Chudamani? I had no idea. I'd never read any of the non-dual texts. I had no idea. Never opened a non-dual text before that. So I got the Ashtavakra Gita. I got the Vivek Chudamani. And it was like, you open it up and you're like, yes, 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 yes. Because it's your direct experience. It's your living reality at that point. It's not something you're trying to cognize and understand mentally. It's what you are at that point. And the Ashtavakra and the Vivek Chudamani were very instrumental in understanding not to let the mind reroute, not to chase thought, not to go back into trying to question this, trying to figure it out, because then the mind will reroute. It'll start again, and one will fall into ego and body identification. Okay. So once one enters realization, aka realization, the mind of Turiyatita, it takes a while for the mind of Turiyatita, which is that still point, absolute quiet. There's no more coming and going of mind any longer. Okay? No more of that. That's finished, Turiyatita. But before getting to Turiyatita, you have about maybe, I would say it was about maybe 5-6 years before everything settles. For the first 3-4 years, you're just like this all the time. Your eyes are like this. Because if you look at a tree, you could sit there all day. You could sit on a park bench and just stare at a tree. It's the most amazing thing you've ever seen. And you stare at a tree and the leaves will flutter and you feel it in your heart, the flutter of the tree. Because you're one with that tree. You're with that tree. You are that tree. And you feel the fluttering. And it's so amazingly glorious. Everything is glorious. Okay? Colors are brighter. Everything feels still, yet you watch this motion, yet it's still at the same time. It's movements and stillness. At the center of it, it's still, and you see it moving. You can't try to explain what it is. That's why they say, those that know do not speak, and those that speak do not know, because all of language is from duality. Okay? All of language, there is no actual language you can say that will accurately describe what non-dual actually is. What it is to be in the state of non-dual consciousness. I don't even say mind, it's consciousness, direct consciousness, that which programs the mind. Okay? So one has gone beyond that mind play. And you'll notice if you are, that all of the masters that have entered realization and non-dual consciousness, those like Ramana, Nisargadatta, that mirror, your words and your pointings will mirror one another. It's the same. There's only one realization. Okay? There are as many things in duality as there are minds. But in realization is only, well, you can't even say one, it's the zero. One can be subdivided. Great Spirit can never truly be subdivided. That's why in Hinduism, when you go into the temple, you go the furthest with the Shiva, you see the Shiva Linga. It's an oval, it's a zero. It's not a penis, it's not a testicle. Okay, it's a representative of the zero. It sits in the yoni, and the yoni is circular. So it is representing that stillness, which comes into play. It starts moving, which then it's got that point that comes out and makes creation, the seen and visible world of duality. Okay, that's it in a nutshell. And if you've ever gone to the tantric temples like Khajuraho, People have lost the meaning of what the genuine tantric temples are teaching. But when you look out and you get to the front steps, on the outside of the temple has got all the things of life, sex, relationship, all of that. You go there and do the tour and they go, look at this. They've lost the meaning of it. And if you understand the math of it, it's got the how things form, how the universe is put together, how these things fit. But you're leaving that outside world. You're leaving behind that outside world. That's why the temple has all of the figures on it. You're leaving that behind. You go in and you turn around and you see the outside world. And the further you go into the temple, the more quietude is there. The more quiet, the more you're entering that inner sanctum of is. Until you get to the representation. Sort of like if you had a Jewish background and you were there when the great temples were there. And the priests went into the inner sanctum, the holy of holies. Okay, into that space of quietude, into that very holy place of stillness, of quiet, okay, where all proceeds from, okay. Whew, this was a long one today. But that's why some people, you know, they feel a transmission that takes place. If you are connected with a teacher that's entered realization, they're in that still mind, you will feel a transmission take place if you are open to it. And it's not something that we try to, through ego, that you're trying to make happen. It just happens. Okay, it just happens. Okay. And it helps to move people's consciousness forward into more stillness, more quietude. Okay. It's like if I have students and they come and visit, all of a sudden they'll be sitting there and they're just like, entered quietude. They enter a different space. They're gone when they come. They just like, okay. Again, it happens because it's a spontaneous happening. There's that connection and they enter that consciousness of stillness for a few moments, okay? Just what happens, okay? So I'm going to leave this here. Lord have mercy. I never know what's going to come forward. I had no idea all of this was going to come out tonight. But he wanted to ask about pure as the driven snow. Well, internally, that's as pure as you can get. When you go back beyond this seen world of existence, you enter that pure, eternal is. And nothing can touch that. You know, it runs like a thread through all of existence. That's why they say it's like pearls, like there are pearls on the string. Okay, the pearls of the world of duality, the string is that existence of that divine is. And the divine is never touched by the world of duality. Okay, it's always ever pure, forever pure. Okay, nothing can tarnish it. It remains pure no matter what. Okay. So I guess maybe that's why this triggered all of this, the guy asked. I didn't know what he was asking. Are you as pure as the driven snow? Well, in one way, yes. Anyway, we'll leave this here. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, mercy. Was not expecting this to come out. But again, like I said, I never know what's going to come forward. It's always a surprise. It's like, hello. So those that are interested in the path, That's what takes place when you are on, you know, the mystic's journey. Okay? Have a great night. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you online. Aho!